going to have an AA meeting. I'd like to thank you all for coming out, especially in this heat wave. Just really appreciate your faithfulness and your friendship and your commitment. And welcome you to the Came to Believe group open speaker meeting. And if we could get quiet for a moment and open with the serenity prayer. Serenity prayer. God, grant me the serenity to accept the things I cannot change, the courage to change the things I can, and the wisdom to know the difference. This is our open meeting statement. This is an open meeting of Alcoholics Anonymous. We are glad you're all here, especially newcomers. In keeping with our singleness of purpose and our third tradition, which states that the only requirement for AA membership is a desire to stop drinking, we ask that all who participate confine their discussion to their problems with alcohol. And this is who we are. Our AA preamble. Alcoholics Anonymous is a fellowship of men and women who share their experience, strength, and hope with each other, that they may solve their common problem and help others to recover from alcoholism. The only requirement for membership is a desire to stop drinking. There are no dues or fees for AA membership. We are self-supporting through our own contributions. AA is not allied with any sect, denomination, politics, organization, or institution, does not wish to engage in any controversy, neither endorses nor opposes any causes. Our primary purpose is to stay sober and help other alcoholics to achieve sobriety. And I forgot to tell you my name. I'm Mary Wood. I'm an alcoholic. And I am a member of the Came to Believe group here in Rocky Mount, and my sobriety date is July 1st, 1998. And I have asked 2 home group members to read How It Works and the 12 Traditions.
Welcome. I'm Jamie Burnett. I'm an alcoholic.
Hey, Jamie.
And my sobriety birthday is February the 17th, 2015. And this is my home group, Came to Believe. This is how it works. Rarely have we seen a person fail who has thoroughly followed our path. Those who do not recover are people who cannot or will not completely give themselves to this simple program, usually men and women who are constitutionally incapable of being honest with themselves. They are such unfortunates. They are not at fault. They seem to have been born that way. They are naturally incapable of grasping and developing a manner of living which demands rigorous honesty. Their chances are less than average. There are those, too, who suffer from grave emotional and mental disorders, but many of them do recover if they have the capacity to be honest. Our stories disclose in a general way what we used to be like, what happened, and what we are like now. If you've decided you want what we have and are willing to go to any length to get it, then you're ready to take certain steps. At some of these we balked. We thought we could find an easier, softer way, but we could not. With all the earnestness at our command, we beg of you to be fearless and thorough from the very start. Some of us have tried to hold on to our old ideas, and the result was nil until we let go absolutely. Remember that we deal with alcohol. Cunning, baffling, powerful. Without help, it's too much for us. But there is one who has all power. That one is God. May you find him now. Measures availed us nothing. We stood at the turning point. We asked his protection and care with complete abandon. Here are the steps we took, which are suggested as a program of recovery. 1, we admitted we were powerless over alcohol, that our lives had become unmanageable. 2, came to believe that a power greater than ourselves could restore us to sanity. 3, made a decision to turn our will and our lives over to the care of God as we understood him. 4, made a searching and fearless moral inventory of ourselves. 5, admitted to God, to ourselves, and to another human being the exact nature of our wrongs. 6, we're entirely ready to have God remove all these defects of character. 7, humbly asked him to remove our shortcomings. 8, made a list of all persons we had harmed and became willing to make amends to them all. 9, made direct amends to such people wherever possible, except when to do so would injure them or others. 10, continued to take personal inventory, and when we were wrong, promptly admitted it. 11, sought through prayer and meditation to improve our conscious contact with God as we understood Him, praying only for knowledge of His will for us and the power to carry that out. 12, having had a spiritual awakening as a result of these steps, we tried to carry this message to alcoholics and to practice these principles in all of our affairs. Many of us exclaimed, "What an order! I can't go through with it." Do not be discouraged. No one among us has been able to maintain anything like perfect adherence to these principles. We are not saints. The point is, we are willing to grow along spiritual lines. The principles we have set down are guides to progress. We claim spiritual progress rather than spiritual perfection. Our description of the alcoholic, the chapter to the agnostic, and our personal adventures before and after make clear 3 pertinent ideas. A, that we were alcoholic and could not manage our own lives. B, that probably no human power could have relieved our alcoholism. And C, that God could and would if He were sought.
I probably don't need that. I talk loud anyway. My name's Rhonda Reed, and I'm an alcoholic. My sobriety date is May 15th, 2008. And these are the traditions. To those now in its fold, Alcoholics Anonymous has made the difference between misery and sobriety, and often the difference between life and death. AA can, of course, mean just as much to uncounted alcoholics not yet reached. Therefore, no society of men and women ever had a more urgent need for continuous effectiveness and permanent unity. We alcoholics see that we must work together and hang together, else most of us will finally die alone. The 12 traditions of Alcoholics Anonymous are, we AAs believe, the best answers that our experience has yet given to those ever-urgent questions. How can AA best function? And how can AA best stay whole and so survive? The 12 traditions of Alcoholics Anonymous. 1. Our common welfare should come first. Personal recovery depends upon AA unity. 2. For our group purpose, there is but one ultimate authority, a loving God as He may express Himself in our group conscience. Our leaders are but trusted servants. They do not govern. 3. The only requirement for AA membership is a desire to stop drinking. 4. For each group should be autonomous except in matters affecting other groups or AA as a whole. 5. Each group has but one primary purpose, to carry its message to the alcoholic who still suffers. 6. An AA group ought never endorse, finance, or lend the AA name to any related facility or outside enterprise, lest problems of money, property, and prestige divert us from our primary purpose. 7. Every AA group ought to be fully self-supporting, declining outside contributions. 8. Alcoholics Anonymous should remain forever non-professional, but our service centers may employ special workers. 9. AA, as such, ought never be organized, but we may create service boards or committees directly responsible to those they serve. 10. Alcoholics Anonymous has no opinion on outside issues. Hence, the AA name ought never be drawn into public controversy. 11. Our public relations policy is based on attraction rather than promotion. We need always maintain personal anonymity at the level of press, radio, and film. 12. Anonymity is the spiritual foundation of all our traditions, ever reminding us to place principles before personalities.
Thanks, Jamie and Rhonda. This is our meeting schedule. We are one group that meets twice a week. On Tuesdays, we have a closed meeting in the choir room from 7 to 8 p.m. The first 3 Tuesdays, we study the big book, Alcoholics Anonymous, from cover to cover. The fourth Tuesday, we study the tradition that corresponds with the number of the month out of the 12 Steps and 12 Traditions book. And when we have a fifth Tuesday, we study AA history from AA-approved literature. On Fridays, we have a closed meeting primarily from 7 to 8 p.m. Same location, that choir room around the corner. We have a closed discussion using AA-approved literature. And the last Friday of the month, as tonight is, we have our open speaker meeting. We usually try to make sure everything's set up and friendly by 6:30, and our speaker, oftentimes from out of town, at 7 o'clock. Closed meetings are for alcoholics or anyone having a desire to stop drinking. Open meetings are for anyone desiring to attend. This is an open meeting, and we're glad you're all here. And so at this time, I'm going to ask Paige to come up and introduce our speaker.
First of all, I'm going to be brief. And a little commentary on the weather. It's hot, and we can't do anything about that. We're glad you're here. We got some cold water if you need it. Anyway, my name's Paige Wood, and I'm an alcoholic. Hey. I am a member of this group, the Came to Believe group of Rocky Mount, and my sobriety birthday is March the 31st, 1989. I'm delighted about that, and so is a number of other people in the law enforcement and other areas. So anyway, tonight we've got a great speaker. He's a friend of our group and a friend of many of us here. He's no stranger to us. We've known Aaron a long time, and we love him, and we're always grateful to have him. He's been as a guest with other members, and he's spoken here for the King to Believe group a number of times over the years, over the past 20 years, I guess. Anyway, we welcome the opportunity to hear him again. So talking with him on the telephone the other night, I said, now, Aaron, where is your home group? He bounces around a little bit. And he said, the Cleveland 12-Step group. I said, that's great. You guys are named after the first AA meeting in Cleveland, Ohio. He said, no, I don't know anything about that. We're named after the little community that we live in, the Cleveland community. So here he is all the way from Cleveland, which is a little, I'll get him to tell you more about that. But anyway, help me welcome Aaron.
Thank you, Paige.
You're welcome.
Hey everyone, I'm Aaron DeBluis. I'm an alcoholic. Hey. My sobriety date is December 1st, 2002. And as Paige already let you know, I'm a member of the Cleveland 12-Step group. Looks like I'm at home right here at my home group. I got a bunch of home group members and friends of our group with us tonight, so I appreciate you all being here. I'm not going to be vain enough to think you're here for me, but I appreciate that you're here. Bounce around a lot. I've only had 2 home groups, Paige, and I'm still a member of the second one. But no, we named. I actually, a short story there. I came from a group, a Willow Springs 12-Step group, that actually got kicked out of the church in Willow Springs and had to move to Fuquay. So the lesson there was don't name the group after the town you live in, because now it's the Willow Springs 12-Step group and they meet in Fuquay Marina. We didn't learn anything. We just figured that ain't going to happen to us, right? That's what we do. So I could tell you a little story. Anybody who knows anything about me knows I have a little history with the highway, on 40. I've done a lot of time out there over the years, and I allowed myself a lot of time to get here tonight. And I got in the car, and Waze was, yeah, you're good to go. And I'm driving, got some good music on, and then Waze said that I was going to be late, you know? And I'm like, now I'm getting angry, right? I'm like, I'm getting in my old highway groove now. I'm like, you know, I got to make up some time, you know? But what I did was I thought about all those times I talked in my home group, and I said how I was able to practice traditions on I-40. I said I better live up to that. So I said a little prayer, and I settled down, and I just said, you know, in my mind, I'm wrapping all these stories up. I'm going to have to call Paige. You know, somebody else is going to have to get up here at the podium. I'm going to come in about 15 minutes late. But I surrendered, and I said a little prayer to God, and about 5 minutes later, I ain't lying to you, Waze gave me 20 minutes back, just like that. And I was early. So, you know, you just never know. You know, so that was my spiritual experience on the way here. But I appreciate you asking me to speak here. I am a friend of this group, and I have a lot of respect for everyone in it, for the service they carry and the sobriety that's here. So I love my home group. I'm sure y'all feel the same way about yours, but you know, anyway, it's good to be here. So look, I'm here to tell you in a general way, you know, what I was like, what happened to me, and what it's like today. I can tell you, I got no business living the life I live today. I just can't do the math. You know, it just doesn't work out. To come from where I was to where I am, I just, you know, that's a miracle. You know, that's just an act of God. That's, you know, I'm gonna talk a little bit about that tonight. And but you know, somebody asked me today if I was nervous about coming here, and I'll be honest with you, I wasn't until I got here. But I'm more humbled by the fact that somebody asked me to do something in Alcoholics Anonymous, that I have anything that might be useful to somebody, you know. Because living the way I was living, that just wasn't the case, you know. So I'm just going to get down to it. I think I covered all the bases. I'm the youngest of 6 children, and my parents got divorced when I was young, and I lived with my father, and he kind of just wasn't there much. So my older brothers and sisters, I mean, I was like the kid. I came a lot of years later, so they were all substantially older than I was. So I saw what partying looked like, and to be honest with you, in the beginning, it scared me. I didn't really, you know, I didn't know what to do with it all, because in the beginning of the night, everybody was happy and fun and having a good time, and then sometimes they were having more fun, but by the end of the night, you know, there's 2 people in the kitchen fighting, saying they're going to kill each other. There's a guy in the bushes throwing up, saying he's going to die. I'm dying. And like, I'm believing everybody. And I'm wondering why everybody ain't running around trying to fix all this stuff. These guys are going to kill each other, and this guy's dying out there in the bush, you know. So it just unnerved me. And then, you know, in my family, you packed it all up, and you never talked about it again, you know. So that certainly was my experience. But, you know, I started drinking alcoholically at 16 years old, deliberately, to not feel anymore. But I can tell you that I didn't know much about the word alcoholism or being an alcoholic, but I can tell you that my 2 experiences with alcohol that I recall are, one was the first time I was drinking. I was at a 4th of July party at my father's girlfriend's house, and they were drinking screwdrivers. And I like orange juice, so I'm just sitting there watching, observing. So I start putting a little vodka in my orange juice, and when nobody's looking, the people walking by me, I'm drinking. I'm like, this is great, you know. Nobody's looking. But and then I started feeling warm, so I poured a little more vodka and a little more orange juice, and I think my ratio was a little off, and I wound up laying in a pile of vomit on the front steps where they finally found me, you know. And you know, my father, the next morning, I thought he was just gonna hurt me, to be honest with you. But all he said was, if you can't control your drinking, you shouldn't drink. So what I clearly heard was, you need to learn how to control your drinking. I didn't have any out-of-body experience or anything like that. It just was what it was. And then sometime, I think I was like 13 years old, I got invited to the neighborhood cake party which was a big deal. You know, I think I even had to work to get invited, you know, like it was at somebody's house or neighbor's house. So long story short, I got drunk, I insulted this guy, this grown man, I'm a 13-year-old, and he threw beer in my face. And I immediately, without thinking, pulled out a knife and was ready to fight him. I mean, this knife was one of those old, I don't even know if Sears sold them, but they were one of them old fishing knives. It was dull when I got it. You couldn't cut anything with it. It had the old fish skinner on the scaler on the back. I mean, I think it took me like 30 seconds to get it out, you know, just wait for me, you know. But nonetheless, my intention was to hurt this guy, to defend myself, or just not tolerate it, you know. I'd like to say that, you know, my drinking got a whole lot better from there, but it didn't. It really didn't. I was just that way. I was, you know, most of the time I stayed a scared, trembling, nervous wreck until you put alcohol in me, and then I was just a self-proclaimed badass, and I just was not willing to tolerate anything from anybody. I just looked for every opportunity to get in a fight, and I'll talk a little bit about that, but that 0 to 100, that polar opposites of who I was without alcohol and who I was with alcohol is exactly why I drank, to be honest with you. So I started drinking alcoholically at 16 years old. I remember the night I went over to my sister's house. I had enough of my mind and those feelings of feeling inferior and less than, like I didn't belong anywhere, and just odd, just a misfit. That's just how I felt. Full of self-pity and sorrow and bitter, you know, just like, woe is me, you know, my family was broken, you know. So I remember knocking on her door, and she let me in. She assumed I had partaken in a whole lot of other outside substances. I can tell you I had a crash course in full-on scale partying that night. But alcohol came out victorious ahead of that evening. I never looked back. I mean, from that point to the time I walked in Alcoholics Anonymous, alcohol was my go-to. I'd like to tell you for years that it did for me what I couldn't do for myself, because I just stayed in a dark place. And I'll be honest with you, I think alcohol saved my life. If I didn't have alcohol and alcohol didn't do for me what it did for those first years or so, I'm sure that I would have figured out a way to get myself out of misery. And it probably wouldn't have been pretty. But alcohol worked. I was no longer afraid or scared of you. I no longer cared what you thought about me. I just went about my way and lived my life just like a crazy wild man, and I was okay with it. But, you know, again, the minute alcohol wore off, I was just hiding under the table, sucking my thumb, wanting somebody to take care of me. I wanted somebody to tell me it was all going to be okay. You know, that truth be told, I look back, I don't think anybody could have given me that enough affirmation. They couldn't give me enough love to shake me out of that place I was at. So I drank like that. I drank a lot of alcohol, and I drank it fast. I just consumed, like, so I think in the beginning I found those places of comfortably numb, if you will. But I searched for the next, 19 years looking for that space again, And it looked like it was about 10 minutes long, because I drink so much alcohol, that I would just shoot through comfortably numb into oblivion. And that's the way I wanted it, to be honest with you. I mean, that's where I went. So I stayed pretty much just a drunk, angry young man for probably the next 10 years. I roared in and out of life. I worked hard. I was an electrician, and that kind of lent itself to partying hard. I always had work and a lot of overtime. It's one thing I always did. I just showed up. I showed up and I worked. No matter how drunk I was, no matter how sick I was, I just showed up. And it wasn't always in the best shape, but for some reason I hung on to that as some sort of you're okay, you know. You're going to work, you're paying your bills. So I say I'm paying my bills, but the reality is all that money went to partying, you know. Like I'd crash on your couch and I had plenty of money to share with you, we'd go party. But, you know, my truck was almost repossessed 2 or 3 times. And, you know, I was living in, most of the time when I wasn't crashing on your couch, I was living in my dad's house, free, because he owed me that, right? No explanation, I just show up, you know. One morning he'd come up and there I'd be. You know, maybe he ain't saw me in 3 months, a month. Didn't know if I was alive. And there I was, obnoxious, cocky, sick. And just tell him, let him know I was going to stay there for a few weeks, get my feet under me. And you know, 12, 14 hours later, an opportunity presented itself somewhere, a party or another couch to crash on. And I'd be gone with no notice to him. I pretty much treated everybody that way. I hated everybody. I mean, I just felt like everybody had wronged me and life had given me a bad deal. And, you know, what a good night for me looked like for a lot of years was a whole lot of Jack Daniels and then a good old-fashioned fist fight and then a girl. I could do without the girl most nights, but the liquor in the fight was not optional. I could usually get my hands on both. I was just so angry that I would just start chaos wherever I went. I'd look for it. I you know, went through quite a few relationships during that time, and I always tried to find somebody or a group of people who had so much going on in their lives that they wouldn't judge me on my drinking or my alcoholism. I never found those people because my drinking was always an issue. It always rose to the top, whether I was in a relationship or whether I thought we were all drinking the same way. It become like, hey man, you're fine, but then you get angry and you start fighting. You know, nobody wants to fight. Everybody just wants to relax. You know, I was just trying to let that anger out. I mean, I just didn't know how to process it, and so I had an MO, if you will, that I would get into a relationship, and as long as you didn't bring up my drinking, we were okay. And sometimes that worked out well, and sometimes it didn't. But most times it didn't. A few of those instances were once I was engaged to this girl for a period of time, and she didn't really comment too much on my drinking. Once in a while, I like to drink a lot when I painted, more than normal. So she would say, "Al, the painter's coming over," meaning I guess alcoholic, the painter's coming over. But I was kind of trying to play house, and I could go from maybe Sunday to Thursday or Friday without drinking, and then I would drink heavily all weekend. But if I waited till Friday to take that drink, I'd be throwing up somewhere because I was just such a glutton. I just had to have it, or that craving was just too much. I just poured it in me just faster than my body could digest it or process it. But if I could start drinking on Thursday and ease on into Friday, I usually could stay out of the bushes, and so that was always good. But then Sunday turned into Monday, you know. I drink on Sunday, recover on Monday with a little alcohol, and it got to the point where I just couldn't drink the way I wanted to. And she went out to my truck one day for some reason, and she found a little bit of an outside issue in my truck, and she came in the house and said, I'm not gonna marry a drug addict. And I said, you're right, you shouldn't. And I left. That moment I left that relationship, and I never came back. I left a house that was my name was on the mortgage. We had bought a car together. I just left. I had tunnel vision on being able to drink, live my life like a free man, if you will, but it really was just to drink the way I needed to drink. And that confused a lot of people in my life, I assure you. You know, like, what's going on, you know? And They actually had to come track me down and find me, and they put a piece of paper in front of me to sign the deed over. I don't know what I signed. I guess it's okay. You know, I didn't get any money, but they didn't come asking me for any either. So I just signed it. I felt ashamed, embarrassed, didn't want to be deal with it. Just leave. I went through a couple other relationships like that, and I mean, I've shared some of them. I moved in top of this apartment. You know, I dated this girl for a year, and the relationship was terrible. But our leases were running out, so. But she never mentioned my drinking. So I'm like, we should move in together. We're on a roll. So I had some friends come over and help me move all that furniture up 3 flights of stairs, and 3 weeks later, she started talking about my drinking, literally, like clockwork. So like, I left. I had my friends, his friends come over and help me move all that stuff back downstairs, and went and found, you know, my own place. But that night that I was leaving, I had met this girl, and we had become friends, kind of walking the dog. She had a boyfriend, and I was living with this woman. And I remember that I saw her down there, and I knew I was leaving, so I grabbed that dog and ran down in the parking lot to have that happen chance, you know, bump into each other. And it worked out. So I asked her, I said, you know, would you like to go out sometime? And I can remember, we still talk about the confused look on her face, like, you live upstairs with that woman. I said, I know, but I'm moving out. She said, well, why don't you give me a call when you move out? I said, I'm leaving tomorrow. And can I, you know, she's like, okay. So, it's crazy. So I'll just share with you and save you a little suspense that I asked her to marry me 3 weeks after that first date. And 9 months later, we were married. And it'll be 25 months, 25 years next month. Really, that's a gift to Alcoholics Anonymous, I assure you. I'll get there. Anyway, we started dating. I tried to find a solution prior to us getting together. I thought that I had an issue with mental illness. I have some in my family. So I had visited a bunch of doctors. I'm sure there's something wrong with me. You know, maybe I had a little something like my, you know, family member had. And they'd asked me the same question for 10 years. Are you drinking? No. No, I'm not. And okay, well, we can help you, you know. They tried with what the information I gave them, you know, but clearly I wasn't honest with them. They did their best to try to help me, but I remember when that girl agreed to go out with me, my wife, I immediately went to that doctor that next day and said, you need to fix me. Because, you know, in my mind, there was no way that a girl like that was going to have something to do with me if she knew who I really was. And a phony and a fraud, shallow, alcoholic, maniac, violent. I didn't think I could hide that from her as well as I did for a little while. So that doctor, you know, he tried. He asked me the same question: do you drink? No, sir. No. And so I'm going to just tell you that I roared through a whole lot of a mess about. I about imploded, not drinking the way I wanted to, trying to present this image of a decent human being to this girl, and she used to say to me that, hey, you know, we're drinking a lot. I don't drink like this, you know. And I tell her I don't either, that we're just kind of caught up in this whirlwind romance, and, you know, once we get married, you know, we'll settle down, we'll quit. So we got married, and she quit. I don't even think she drank on the cruise. I swore she did. I had like some crazy liquor bill on the cruise. I mean, I'm quite sure I had alcohol poisoning when I got off that cruise. It was like a madman. Anytime you wanted it, any style you wanted it, it was all over the place. Duty-free shop, you don't have to pay taxes. Like, I was ever concerned about paying tax for my booze. I didn't care. I'd have paid $8 for a Miller Lite if I wanted one, and you had it. You know, I didn't care where I was, a concert, an outing, a pavilion. I didn't care. I mean, money was secondary to getting the alcohol. Um, crazy. Um, so after we got married, I had a hard time adjusting to life. Married, you know, I had been late to work every day for a long time, and I had a new manager tell me you can't be late anymore. Well, that's about enough to throw me over the edge. I just couldn't digest that. And went to HR and ran all this scheme and tried to do all those things and got my way pretty much. But what happened was is that I just imploded. I couldn't live life on life's terms anymore. I went to those doctors. They put me out on disability, and because I had a history of going to doctors, so I knew a little bit about that game, and I thought I was running a scam. I really did. It wasn't until I got to Alcoholics Anonymous that I clearly could see I was not employable. I couldn't function in life. I couldn't handle somebody telling me not to be late to work. So much so that I got the bright idea to shoot up his house one night. And I can assure you that it didn't work out, thank God. And but you know, that's just that crazy thinking, you know, drunken thinking, if you will. I just started to self-destruct, and my wife went to bed one night at 11 o'clock, and she said, stay put. So now I'm unemployed, and I'm drinking every day. I'm on disability, trying to get myself right. And she asked me, she went to bed, she said, don't go anywhere. Because I would just do that. Once I got alcohol on me, I was going somewhere. I figured y'all were waiting for me. I always had this grandiose idea that you're all just waiting for me around the corner. It was a big party, and I just had to go find you. Or something cool out there was happening somewhere, and I'm going for it, you know. 2 o'clock in the morning, I got arrested and faked a panic attack in the police station. They brought me to the hospital and called my wife and told my wife that now mind you, she left me in the living room, went to bed, and they called me and said that I had been arrested and I'm in the hospital, like 3 o'clock in the morning, you know. That didn't go over well, and I was, again, always on damage control, trying to fix that stuff. She showed up at the hospital. I thought I was going to get out of that mess, and I tried to explain that to her, but again, she didn't process all that information very well and started yelling at me, and, you know, and I was good at trying to be the victim and show you this pity Aaron, you know, and feel sorry for me, and try to manipulate you to do things I wanted you to do, so I drank extremely fast, like I told you. So I had to go to court for that DWI because I didn't get out of anything, and I went to the bar on my way to court. I don't advise that either, and I stayed there for about 45 minutes. Which in Aaron's time, like dog years, is probably about 2 hours of a normal drinker, or just the average alcoholic, if you will. I'm not special. I'm being trying to be silly a little bit, but I consumed a lot of alcohol. Showed up to court drunk, late, parked in the fire lane outside, and my attorney told the judge I'd been drinking, and the judge asked me if I had been drinking, and I told him yeah, I had a few O'Douls on my way over before I left the house, and. You know, truth be told, that my wife, long before she read our literature and said we have an allergy to alcohol, she said to me, I think you're allergic to alcohol. I said, why? She said, because you'll drink one O'Doul's and smell like Jack Daniels all night. And, why that woman tolerated me, I don't know. I really don't. So push come to shove, we decided to make a geographical cure. Lots of sweet promises. I'm not going to do it here. We moved. I did it. I was trying not to. I was about losing my head. After that DUI and all that trouble, I spent the last 5 years of my drinking in an 8x8 shed. My sponsor helped me move out of that. It was 2 houses ago. And we weren't sure whether we should post a warning sign or burn it down on that shed, because that's where I hid. I did my drinking. I didn't want to be bothered. So I came from that home I told you about. I felt like it was wrong. I felt like everybody left me. So I literally had everything I had ever dreamed of having as a kid. I had a beautiful wife. We had a new home, you know, a yellow dog, and the fence was white. I mean, I'm not lying. I had a career and a side business, and we were doing okay. And I was just doing everything I could to destroy it, to the point where I was convinced it was destroyed. It was. I mean, it just was. I mean, I just mangled it. So she came knocking on that shed door one night, and to get me out of there. I feel like I was in there for 20 minutes, and she'd say I was in there for 2 hours. And she kept knocking. And there was a hatchet there, a little hatchet, and I remember taking that hatchet and just swinging it as hard as I could at that door while she was on the other side. I just felt like I could just be buried. I mean, I just felt that low. I was just spiritually bankrupt, and I was in such a dark place. I knew it. I didn't need her to look at me the way she looked at me, which she wasn't looking at me probably quite the way I think she was, but I was distraught. On and off different types of, medicines from that doctor trying to help me, trying to quit smoking. I was convinced if I quit smoking, I'd be okay. I wore that nicotine patch for 7 years. Listen, I put that patch on in the morning after I smoked a few cigarettes with a firm resolve to not smoke again. And I would, come lunchtime, I'd do fine from like in the morning till lunchtime. But lunchtime I was irritable and discontented. And I would go out and get some liquor, and I'd rip that patch off, smoke a few cigarettes, feeling good, all's right with the world, and get back into work and say, I can do it. I can do it this time. Put a new patch on. And I'd do that 3 or 4 patches a day. I don't know how I didn't bankrupt my family on patches for those 7 years. But that was that mentality that I had, of just grasping for straws. We had, right before, during this time, we had twins, and I just couldn't do much. I couldn't really be there for them. My wife wouldn't leave me alone with them just for fear that, my idea of watching them was open the shed door and open the back door of the house and hang in my shed, do my thing, as long as I had a bird's eye view kind of on those kids, and they're infants, You can't do that with infants. It wasn't like, I couldn't do it. But before we had those kids, I remember one time I was in the house, and I was playing with my revolver. I had a .357 revolver, and I was cocking it and uncocking it and see how fast I could get it out and draw it drunk. And I shot a hole in the floor, and powder burns down my leg. I almost shot my dog. And let me tell you, when you let off a firearm in the house, it's loud. Like, there's no small talk after that, for a while, about 30 minutes. My ears are ringing, and I remember yelling, I'm okay, And when I came out, she was crying. She was pregnant with my twins, and she was crying. She thought I'd killed myself because I just stayed in that dark place, So she was absolutely convinced that I had just got enough courage to do it. I came in after one escapade with the shed just as low as I've ever been, and I walked by her in the hallway in that old house we used to have, and she was talking to me about my drinking, and I'll be honest with you, I don't remember what she was saying. I'm sure that it was warranted, and I just I couldn't take it anymore. I punched the wall above her head in the hallway, and I told her that if she said one more word that I was going to kill her. And then I was going to go kill myself afterwards. And I meant it at that point in time. And I was just lost. I just didn't have I didn't know what to do. I just went in the room and I cried. And it scared me. It scared me because I truly believe if she would have kept talking, something different would have happened that night. Anyway, she got some good advice, which was to get the hell out of that house, excuse my language, and she was working on it, and I was frantically trying to fix me before she could leave, and I did the best I could. I put together a plan, about 12 pages long, on how I'm going to fix me, and I'm telling you, I put a lot of thought into this, And it had everything from, was going to eat healthy, join a church, be a Christian, join Alcoholics Anonymous. Not really. That wasn't in my plan. But I was going to like try to live like a better human being, exercise, eat right, quit smoking. I think I was willing to quit drinking if it was warranted, but for a little while. But on the plan it said that I have to start tomorrow because it's 10 a.m. and I'm already high. And I don't really know what that means. I had that plan. And a week later, I made a note to myself that the plan failed. And that was a culmination of all the power I had to fix me. Everything I had ever heard anybody ever share, read self-help books, it was in my plan. And I did my best to execute it. I think I made it a couple days. So I just started drinking, and I just one day, I don't know, divine intervention or whatever, I asked my wife if I walked in the house and said, if I can get that insurance card, I'll try to go get some help. I'm not thinking for my drinking. I'm being honest with you. I said, but you got to understand, people are going to know, you know. I remember looking on her face now, everybody knew. She threw me a surprise 30th birthday party, had a gift table about this size. There wasn't anything on it but booze. The gifts were all booze. I mean, that's just what I did. If you knew me, I was a drinker. I mean, I didn't have any use for anything else. If I did, I'd get it myself. I didn't need you to get it for me. It's just like how I lived, like a madman. So I went to the Holly Hill and did the assessment and tried to give them enough information to qualify, but not too much that they were going to lock me up or, you know. But evidently I qualified, and they put me in the IOP, intensive outpatient program. It was supposed to start that Tuesday. So that Monday I went to that doctor who'd been trying to help me for 10 years and told him, I'm going in this place, I can't be on this medicine. I need to get off that stuff. He said, whoa, hold on now, because I was on some pretty strong stuff. And he said, why are you going there? And I said, because I have a marijuana problem. And even to that point, I was unwilling to throw my alcohol friend under the bus. He said, well, just tread lightly, you know. So I went home and I flushed it all out. I went to the IOP meeting on Tuesday night, and that meeting hit. There was an ice storm in 2002. I don't know if y'all recall that, but it really shut everything down. I couldn't go anywhere, and I had gotten rid of everything. So I started the process of detoxing at home, and thought I was losing my mind and I was going to die. And my wife, her name is Denise, who I threatened to kill, nursed me back to health, took care of me, read her scripture to me, because she was pretty religious at that time, and walked me through that process. Told me I wasn't losing my mind, the things I was seeing weren't real, and that I wasn't going to die. And I was laying in bed sweating for whatever reason, and I remember popping up and had the realization that, oh my God, it's alcohol. And I understood at that point that if I don't do something about my drinking, that I'm never going to have any kind of life. Just one little moment in time, and I'm so grateful for it. So I found a meeting who was meeting, and there's two people. I just need to share this. This page didn't take up so much of my time. No, you did good tonight. I can't blame it on you. But, you know, I had this booklet of people I was calling. They gave me. It was all these anonymous programs, CA, NA, OAA, all of them were in there. They didn't care what you were in there for. I started calling these people. I called everybody, just trying to get somebody. And I got this, somebody at Holly Hill answered, and it was, I immediately just spilled my guts to this guy. And he listened patiently, and then he finally said, well, listen, I'm just a janitor. But he said, I'll pray with you. So he said a prayer, and I remember hanging up that phone feeling at peace, you know. Like that, I don't know who that man was, but I don't think he'll ever understand what the power of that action did for me, you know. Like, And then I finally got a hold of the intergroup hotline. It was back then, it was just the intergroup, and this woman told me where there was going to be a meeting. There was no power, but if I could get there, she would introduce me to the men there. I about killed myself getting there. I dig my truck out of the ditch a few times, but I got there, and she did. She just handed me off to the men in that group, and they did what we did. I showed up at my home group about 6 days later, and I ran into Buck and Richard Page, first people I walked into, and they asked me how I'm doing. I said, I feel like I'm going crazy. And they said, well, how long have you been sober? I said, about 6-7 days. And they said, well, you probably are. And thank God for that. I'm telling you, when I got there, I was just a mess. I'm talking sobbing hysterically, blowing snot bubbles out of my nose. I mean, I was just a wreck. I was broken. I had no solution. I had no hope. These men just swept me up, you know. They put me on a path of recovery, Alcoholics Anonymous. They worked the steps with me. They showed me how to be of service. They gave me things to do. I didn't have to think about the process. And immediately set me on this course that after a short period of time, I started to feel hope. I was like, wow, maybe this thing can work for me. And then I got scared to death. Like, maybe it wouldn't work for me. You know, maybe y'all are special or something. Maybe it worked for you, but it won't work for me. And I didn't know how to process that. It was a bad deal. It scared me. It scared me enough that I didn't question anything they asked me to do. I just did it. I still do, 98% of the time. But I ain't lying. Like, I don't, you know, when I meet with my sponsor and we talk about things and he makes a suggestion, I take that stuff seriously. I'm not just taking it as, you know, one of many suggestions. Like, that's my suggestion. That's, you know, that's who I'm tapped into. That's, you know, my spiritual advisor. That's my guidance, you know, and I trust that. And it has never steered me wrong. So they set me to work helping other alcoholics, put me in a correctional institution, stayed there for a lot of years. I loved it. So my life, you know, started to turn around, and I wanted to get a little sober quicker to share some of this stuff, but I'm going to fit it in because it's very important. I can tell you that about 1 year sober, my wife came to me and said, I want to go to school. I had been the only one earning money in that family for the first 5-6 years of our marriage, maybe longer while you know, with the kids. And, you know, maybe I was sober a little bit longer, but I'm like, whoa, I got to talk to my sponsor about that. You know, that's going to mean me a lot of time. I'm not going to be able to go to my meetings and run around doing all my stuff. But, you know, he set me straight on that. He said, you know, yeah, your job is, you know, to support her and do whatever you got to do, you know. And through that action of showing up for my family, pretty much for the first time, other than not drinking, I got to take care of my kids for the first time. I mean, and they were, you know, young infants or toddlers, you know, and develop a relationship with them. I mean, what a gift. I'm so selfish and self-centered, I never would have done that. I would have told her that I can't do that because I had a meeting this night. I would have told her I can't do that because I got to go help this guy that night. But that's what sponsorship did. I mean, Alcoholics Anonymous, it was pointed out to me, did not get me sober to hide. It got me sober to participate in my family's life, in my community where needed. Now, I'm not saying I use that as an excuse not to show up, but Alcoholics Anonymous is more than flexible. So I can tell you that she went to school when I did that deal. I raised 2 active kids that did everything from band and soccer and scouts and dance, and I can tell you that I was not there for all of that stuff. But when I was present. And when we together talk about that, or we look back through that DNA of what that looked like, they tell me you were there for everything. They just see that. They see that picture. They don't see those blocks of time that I wasn't, that I had a commitment that I had to keep. You know, it was enough. It was like God bent time. You know, like I was willing to do whatever was in front of me, and God just made it enough in all areas of my life. I mean, I don't know how that works. But if you ask my kids, I was everywhere, all the time. And it's really just not the reality. Thank God for Alcoholics Anonymous and sponsorship. I'll share this, that in San Antonio, my marriage wasn't shaping up the way I thought it would. I guess I was about 8 years sober. And I may have been rooming with Mr. Mitchell over there. I don't know. He's probably still scarred from that experience. But I had a long talk walking along that waterfront with my sponsor, and we probably deemed that it was time that we start figuring out what to do with this relationship, that it's not working. And the minute I got some kind of buy-in from my sponsor, I started looking at really how I'd been acting and what I'd been doing. And the reality is that I could see little things I wasn't doing. Now, I'm mindful, I didn't think it was going to change much, but I committed that before I go home and throw that relationship out, that I was going to practice everything I've learned in Alcoholics Anonymous. I was basically going to practice the traditions in my marriage. So on the way home, I geared up and I prepped up, and I can tell you when I got home, she wasn't happy. Our relationship wasn't in a great place. I was just off hanging in San Antonio for a week with my friends, and I swore to myself I wasn't going to say anything out of my mouth that wasn't helpful or encouraging or anything that was controlling or manipulating. I can honestly tell you I had like nothing to say for a week. Like everything I started to say was somehow trying to mold it or push it or shape it or manipulate a situation to what I think should be happening. I don't care if it was the dishes or money. I mean, I was just in it everywhere. And I just pulled back and just saw all that. And I can tell you within weeks, that relationship changed. I mean, I sought counsel from some people here about that relationship, and it was in trouble. And I can tell you the only thing that changed in that relationship was me. That's it. I didn't ask anybody else to change. I just changed. And as a result, my relationship now is better than it's ever been. I mean, I'm not lying when I say that. I mean, it really is. I really, truly have a friend, a partner, and we just enjoy each other. I mean, it's just a gift that Alcoholics Anonymous. So one more thing that I learned is that I came home from a meeting one time and I was doing all this stuff there, cleaning, sweeping, doing all this. I was the man. And I get home, the first thing I do is complain why the dishes aren't done or why the trash ain't taken out. And I can tell you that my relationship with my kids and my household changed when I stopped demanding those people do that in a timely manner and just did it myself. I just started doing the dishes. I mean, that's sponsorship now. I'm not saying I came up with this idea, but, that's sponsorship. Like, I just started showing up and doing the things that needed to be done without wanting that pat on the back or needing that positive affirmation. And the last thing that I'll close with is that I felt like I was falling short raising my kids. I really did. I could clearly see my delinquencies. I worked with sponsor and tried to incorporate this program and still was falling short. But right before the whole situation occurred in society, we moved them out to college. They went off to 2 universities. We moved one in, and the next day we moved the other one in. And I can tell you that the minute I got home, I started crying like a baby. I felt this massive loss and this incredible amount of fear that, like, I don't think I did it right. I think they're gone. I don't think they're coming back. Why would they come back? And I had to ask myself, did I live in a way that was attractive enough to make them want to be a part of my life still? Thank God the answer was yes. But I can tell you that my attitude towards those relationships have changed. It's no longer important that they listen to me and take my advice and do the things I need them to do. I need them relationship. I need that one-on-one relationship with each of them and all of them. So what they're doing and how they're doing it and whether it's on my time or the way I think it should be done, it's irrelevant today, I assure you. And thank God for being a part of this process and Alcoholics Anonymous in general. So I can tell you that the only thing that keeps me sane is looking for people to help, serving others, wherever I'm at a Christmas party, at an Alcoholics Anonymous meeting, my neighbor, in my community. I just need to be of service. I just need to be available. Sometimes just being available is enough. I mean, I've shared this before, but when they shut our church down, we went Zoom. The first night I just showed up because I thought a newcomer might show up at my group. But I got just as much as showing up there and Zooming in that parking lot, the act of driving to that meeting with the intention of serving. You know, I never would have thought it. I mean, I really got something out of that. Listen, I'm overpaid in every area of my life. I didn't invent that. I mean, I used to hear Jerry say it all the time. I just thought he was full of crap. I mean, I thought he really meant money. But I clearly see where he's not, where he didn't, you know. I get glimpses of that now, and I'm just amazed, you know. I'm just amazed. So again, I can't draw you a line on how I got from where I was to where I am, but I'm just grateful to be in this process. And I'll share these last two things with you. I think it's two, and I'll shut it down. I really never ran long before, so you just bear with me. But one is that we're not alone anymore, you know. That I could be in a group of people and feel absolutely, utterly alone. Like, and a level of aloneness I haven't experienced. But, you know, we're not alone. I'm not alone and you're not alone. We're here together. Together we get through this deal. And the second thing is that my feelings aren't facts. That my emotions they're absolutely no indication on where I am in life. They're not an indication on where I am spiritually, or, you know, my mind will just tell me everything's messed up. A few minutes with my sponsor or a sponsee or looking for somebody to help, I realized there's nothing wrong, you know. It was all in my head, you know. And the one thing I think I love the most, other than a relationship with God that Alcoholics Anonymous has given me, is that I'm never stuck. I don't have to be stuck anymore. I have a path forward. Whether you're sober a day, a month, or 10 years, I would imagine, I can't speak a whole lot more than 19 or 18, but when I hit a wall, there's a solution. I read the book, I pray, I seek counsel, I try to help others, and I try to grow in that direction. I mean, thank God for that. That we don't just get spiritually saturated, or after 3 years you get what you got, and that's it. You got to deal with the rest, you know. That we can continue to grow, and you know, so that we can live free, no matter where we're at. So thank you so much for letting me come here and be with you tonight, and for your patience. Thank you.